Hi guys, so I haven't done a vlog in a very long time. A little backstory here, I'm a Star Wars fanatic. The movies made me want to become a filmmaker, so it means a lot to me personally. So after seeing The Last Jedi, I was a little let down. I was let down. The Last Jedi was pumped up to be something that it really wasn't, so I was a little burned. And after seeing Rogue One and then The Last Jedi, I was really burned, because Rogue One, first time I saw it, I kind of had this high and was like, Star Wars, yay, it's great. And then I walked out of the theater and I was like, you know, maybe it wasn't so great. And I kind of let my film brain like rest on it, watched it again, and realized how much of a walking cliche and how predictable Rogue One was as a film. I enjoy it, but I have to completely let myself just go to enjoy it. The Last Jedi was too Disney for me. It had too much. It could have been something really gritty and really great, and it just didn't. It didn't perform. So I'm going to do this review in two parts. I'm going to do a non-spoiler part first, and then a spoilery part. So if you want to just hear the spoilery part, you can jump ahead to that. Or if you just want to listen to the non-spoilery, kind of vague review here, you can do that first. I will let you know you will not be spoiled. Clear? Cool. I'm gonna say it was above my expectations. The Solo story, for one, I don't have high expectations for the Star Wars stories. The episodes need to be epic, like they do. But the Star Wars stories you kind of have a little more leeway with, so that kind of makes me nervous. Like, you can really mess this up. I'm gonna start with the technical aspects of this film. You've seen it in the trailers and stuff. There's a speeder race at some point where Han is trying to get away from somebody. That's like really not a spoiler, that's just his life. The design for all of the ships and everything like that, just beautiful, fantastic. And I loved the shots. Like, honestly, it was shot very beautifully. It was lit well, and not lit well as in it was bright and colorful. I mean, it was cinematic. It was the tone of the film. You can see it in the footage. It's beautiful. They just had really, they knew what they were doing. I mean, they hired Ron Howard after the whole directorial. I don't know what happened there, but Ron Howard knows what he's doing. For instance, there were a couple of things that made me think back to American Graffiti, and I don't know if that was Ron giving an homage to it or if it was just me going like, oh, a car movie, and I haven't seen many, but American Graffiti is one that I've seen, and it just made me think like the connection from Lucas to Howard, and it was kind of a really cool back and forth. So I will say that it's not Disney cheesy. It has very intense moments. There are some jokes in it, yes, but that's Star Wars in general. It's just not, it's not like kidsy at all. Like how The Last Jedi had all these little fluffy animals and how much can we like animate and put in there. This one had a very real tone to it. It felt like it was a part of Han's past. It really did. Now I'm going to talk about the actors here, because Donald Glover and Alden Ehrenreich, Emilia Clarke, Woody Harrelson, I can go down the whole list. Fantastic list of actors. Not many people like Alden, but I am a fan of his. I saw him in Hail Caesar, and I actually enjoyed that movie a lot. But I can see where he was a risky cast. Going into it, I honestly didn't think that I'd see Alden and be like, that's Han Solo. Because basically, they're all playing characters that have been played before. So they're playing characters, they're playing actors playing, it's a mess. Alden and Donald especially are going to go through a lot of scrutiny based off of, are they portraying their characters the way that the original actors were portraying them, which is kind of not fair to an extent, but also that's what you get when you're making something about, it's already been done in a way. But I will say Donald Glover totally nailed it. There was like one scene or shot, I think, that I could tell it was just Donald being Donald. It could have just been the take, it could have been anything. But all around, I did not expect to look at Alden Ehrenreich and just see Han Solo, like, be completely immersed in it. But he did. He did a good job, and I totally thought it was him, and I could see it. The new guy playing Chewbacca did a great job. I enjoyed the amount of Wookiee throwing people in this movie. Like, the amount of raw Wookiee strength that was actually shown on screen for kind of the first time, which was really cool to see. Speaking of actors, Emilia Clarke, Everyone raves about her from Game of Thrones, but I'm going to put a little pin in that because I've never seen anything Game of Thrones yet. I know, shocker, but I don't have HBO, and there's no real other streaming service that has Game of Thrones, so I've just been waiting to get access to it, and then I'll binge it at some point. But I've never seen it. Going into it, I went and saw this movie with my roommate. I'll put a link to his channel and his review of the movie. He had never seen any Star Wars movie. I had made him watch all the Star Wars movies up until I think he's just missing like Force Awakens. So he went into it with fresh eyes. I went into it with very scrutiny, you know, just I was ready to rip this thing to shreds. He halfway through, not even halfway through, like three-fourths of the way through the movie realized who she was and like flipped out. I was nervous about her being cast at all in this movie just because we all know Han ends up with Leia. I was very concerned that what was going to happen was either they were going to try to force a romance, that everyone would just hate her. Like, she would just be there, and everyone would just hate her because you're not Leia, so, like, why are you here? I was also scared she would be a walking cliche, a walking trope, that she would just either be very Leia-esque, but not perfect enough to be Leia, or she would be just, you know, a smuggler, horrible human being who just, like, messes with Han Solo, and he's just, like, all heartbroken. Like, there were many ways that this could have gone. And I really did enjoy the fact, like, how they represented this relationship and what they did with it. I believe they had chemistry on screen. It was not forced for me, and I also was glad they ended things the way that they did. Like, I don't personally think that these two belonged together, but at the same time, they had a moment. And their moment is what it is, you know, and I'm not mad about it. So I was concerned that I would completely hate this character and I'd be mad about the moment that they were trying to... But we all know that Han Solo, not as much as Lando, but that Han is a player. So it was refreshing to see the younger side, like the more naive, younger him kind of coming into that character. I'll talk more about her on the spoiler end of things where I can get more into detail. Another little random thing, it's very Star Wars, but I liked that her name was spelled Q-I-apostrophe-R-A and not K-I-R-A, just like Kira, but it's Q-I-apostrophe-R-A. Like, that was cool. My other concern with this was that this movie would end up being a sort of knockoff of the ever so popular after its cancellation Firefly. And I know that was just because there were a couple shots that they decided to use in the trailer that made it look very Western. So my concern was that it was going to end up being a knockoff of another, like, let's mix a couple things together and see what we get popularity-wise. But it wasn't. It was very Star Wars in and of itself. It felt like the original series mixed with some modern animation, but in a good way. The story seemed to really end up being its own thing, not heavily depending on whether Han and Lando end up best buddies or where Han and Chewie end up after this. Like, there were many doors left open for his story to continue in that kind of organic way that he is. He's a very ambiguous character, and he goes and he does a lot of things that he kind of makes reference to, but, like, you know, it's Han, so you don't know how much of it he's embellishing and how much of it is real. So I liked that they didn't depend on, like, bookending it with an episode, like leading right into A New Hope or, you know, anything like that. They gave him kind of a wiggle room, so to speak. There was nothing too crazy and over the top. It wasn't a huge, like, focus to put as many Easter eggs in this as possible or as many quotes or, like, references to other movies or anything like that. It was very about this moment and this event that's going on right now. They didn't have to make, like, a million new Stormtrooper outfits or anything, like, fresh and new because they had this time zone that was already established. So they just used what was given to them to tell their story correctly, which made me happy. It wasn't complete fan service, but it wasn't also like, let's make new things so we can sell new action figures. It didn't feel the need to end leading right into an episode. It felt the need to tell you about the Kessel Run and what was going on there, what he ends up bragging about in episode 4, but it didn't feel the need to completely, like, walk you right into an episode, which was nice. It didn't feel the need to make everybody friendly. It didn't feel the need to, like, close all the doors that we'd opened up, but Han is a very ambiguous character. He's had a huge past. We don't have to close every door. Like, you don't have to answer every question in storytelling for it to be a good story. So if I'm gonna give it a rating, I'll say it was a 4 out of 5 stars. Like, I honestly really enjoyed it. It was better than The Last Jedi. I'll give you that. I think it's honestly gonna probably bump up in my favorite Star Wars film categories as I watch it more. Because I've been sitting on this for a bit and I haven't really found anything that I'm super pissed about, which is nice.